David, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Yago. It's wonderful to be here.
So we're talking about stage fright today, something that, as we were talking about in the pre-show, I'm in the 25% of people who don't get it. Don't get me wrong, I get nervous, I get excited, I get, butterflies in my stomach, but I have a reverence for the stage and I love it. It's probably from my music days, rocking on the stage. But I know that there's a lot of people who are terrified. I know it's because every time I say, "Hey man, come on up and say something," or I'll present somebody, there's no, they'll push me. No, Igal, you go speak. Like a lot of people say, Igal, you go speak. You do it really well, you go speak. And so I see them and I know that it's so important confidence wise. It's so important for so many things in life. So first of all, tell us what made you work on helping people with stage fright and what happens to somebody who gets over it, is able to go up there and perform, speak, talk, whatever that is.
Yeah, happy to do so. And I bet we could talk for hours on this, especially since we're both musicians and also engage in public speaking and so forth. There are a number of points of connection here, Yago. But yeah, I mean, let's get some terminology out of the way first. Stage fright, speech fright, they're both performance anxiety. And if we have time, I'll get into why they happen. And it's also essentially the same thing that athletes experience. And right now, the Olympics are going on, and that's one of kind of the constant themes that goes through with the commentators is how nerves are affecting the
Mm.
athletes. It's essentially the same thing. The formal term is performance anxiety. So it's all performance anxiety.
Yeah.
Any rate, my first big one of the big reasons I do this is from my personal experience. My first big experience with performance anxiety was when I was 15 years old, and I got a chance to be in the band backing Sonny and Cher. This is in the 1970s, obviously, when they came through Tucson, Arizona. So this is this was my first gig, my first professional gig, and it was like in front of tens of thousands of people, right? And so I was sitting there in the saxophone section. I was a saxophonist, and the lights went down. The spotlights went on. There's tens of thousands of people out there. I remember the rhythm section started playing the vamp from their song, and the beat goes on. If you know, dun 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 dun, dun right. And I was just so. We talk about fight or fight or flight when you're scared or nervous. There's a third aspect of that: fight, flight, or freeze. In my case, it was the freeze. So all of a sudden, I wasn't aware of it, but the rest of the band was playing the song, and I was just sitting there with my saxophone, right? So, and I vividly remember, so that their director that they brought in with them, very much a 70s guy, he had on rainbow sunglasses, right? One lens said something like, I see, therefore I am. The other one says, he just yelled at me, play down. So, brought me to my senses, but I was almost out of the music biz, just when when I first was in it. So that's part of it. Okay. Then, I went on and I directed a popular music program or a program for popular music students at Catawba College in North Carolina for 20 years or so. And I'm working with singer-songwriters and performers and singers. And, the statistics are that 75% of individuals, regardless of age, regardless of experience, experience enough performance anxiety that it affects how they do, how they speak, how they compete, how they perform. So most of my students, had problems with stage fright. So, I decided I wanted to do something for them. But I also thought, well, what do I tell them? I don't know. You can go online, you can find tons of, 10 tips to overcome stage fright, speech fright. And most of them are well-meaning nonsense. Drink lots of water. Make sure you get a good night's sleep before, right?
Pretend
Make
like
sure
they're
you
pretend like they're naked in the audience.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's it. You feel naked, but so I guess the next best thing is think of yeah. It's all of that, right?
We're all naked.
That's right. And I couldn't do that with my students, right? I mean, so that would be inappropriate. So at any rate, so I started. I sought out a therapist and said, would you like to write co-write a book on stage fright, since there weren't really any? And she said, yeah. And so we started writing. This is much longer than what you want, maybe, but we started working on it. And she asked me, how do you deal with your stage fright? And I said, well, I'd studied Zen when I was a young guy, and I'd learned detachment. And this was maybe 15 years ago. And she said, that sounds like this new thing called mindfulness, right? That's this coming on strong in therapy. She teach your students that. So it began again with my own issues, experiences with stage fright and speech fright. Did a lot of public speaking. I still do, of one type or another. And then helping my students. And then I wrote a book about it. I put it all in a book about 5 years ago.
Love it. Let me ask you a question, because you talked about performance anxiety and you talked about the Olympians. How is performance anxiety? How does performance anxiety show up in, for example, like a workplace?
Yeah.
Is,
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's the thing. 3 factors are behind performance anxiety. You do something in front of an audience, but that audience can be asking your boss for a raise, asking someone for a date. It can be it can be talking to someone over, over Zoom. So that's the first factor. Second factor is that that person is judging you, or at least you feel they're judging you.
yeah.
And then the third one is, if that judgment is negative, it would, have consequences, right? So anytime those 3 factors that are at play, you can have performance anxiety.
Does it, and I'm curious because I have clients, for example, I used to do a lot of business coaching, and I would say, hey, we've proven that going on Facebook Live increases your visibility, which increases people coming into your stores. And some people just took off and did it, and they became amazing, right? They were just awesome at Facebook Live on social media. And the others are like, no, the button, and what if it's not good? And I feel, now that you're saying this, I feel like there's a performance anxiety even on social media when it's going to help their business grow.
Oh, absolutely. And typically, often we beat up on ourselves when we experience performance. Oh, there's no reason to get nervous. No, there typically is a legitimate reason to get nervous. It may be buried way deep, but let's say the business person who goes on Facebook, well, what if I say something stupid?
Yeah.
Right? It's often a matter, in therapy, they call it the downward arrow. Okay, so what then? Well, then that might get around, right? If that happens, then what? Well, then my reputation is, hurt. Okay, if that happens, then what? Well, then my business suffers, right? So there's typically a real reason for having performance anxiety. So as I tell people, you're not broken if you experience.
I always tell people on social media, I say, you're not that important. People are just going to scroll up if you say something stupid. Unless you say something like really racist, anti-Semitic, like really, really bad, they're just going to scroll up and you're good, right? But there are times when, the guys listening to us, if they're at work and they need to give a presentation, or they need to give a speech, or they need to do something. For example, if their child has a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, and they have to stand up and say something, and there's a lot of fear. So talk us through, David, maybe, I know you've got a whole book on this, but give us like 3 key points on how do we get over this performance anxiety, or how do we level it down so that we can push forward and get through what we need to do and have the confidence to be able to do it again.
Yeah, the second way you put it is exactly right, Yigal. It's leveling it down.
Mm.
There's no one and done cure for performance anxiety. In therapy, they call that a dead man's goal. It's like saying, I'm never going to get angry ever again in my life.
No
I'm
way.
never going to get sad ever again in my that's a dead man's goal because only a dead man could achieve it, right?
Yeah.
So, first of all, understand experiencing performance anxiety makes you perfect. You're just perfectly human at that moment. So it means it just means you're perfect. You're perfectly human. So first of all, give yourself a break, right? And also, you know, appreciate that there's a real reason. You mentioned bar mitzvahs. Imagine a father giving a speech at a wedding, right, for his daughter. There's every reason in the world that he wants to give a really great speech for his daughter, who certainly loves. He may be in front of lots of people that he doesn't know that might be really truly judging him. So there's every reason to be scared. So the first thing is accept it. Right now, that's
Mm.
part of mindfulness. Now, mindfulness has gotten as one person said, what is this, 2017? That mindfulness has gone a black eye. It has half deserved that. It became McMindfulness and, became overly commercialized. And interestingly, I think you got, I said I studied Zen when I was young, and that's where I learned detachment.
Mm.
When this therapy told me about mindfulness, which, was just breaking out at that point, I looked into it, and the guy, the therapist at Harvard that developed it, his name's John Kabat-Zinn. He studied with the same Zen master.
Oh, wow.
I mean, what are the chances, right?
Wow.
So I don't even know if I really maybe shouldn't even use it. It's just has a lot of loaded baggage now, but I bring it back to its essence, and that's just detachment. Accept those nervous thoughts. Just don't try to fight them. That just draws your attention and energy away from what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
Just accept them, return your concentration back to the task at hand, playing music, giving the speech. And as you do that, then the nervousness fades, right? As you said, what, level down?
Mhm.
Doesn't necessarily go away, but it diminishes enough that it's a workable situation, typically.
Right.
And the more you practice mindfulness, it's a skill, the more you can do that and the more easily you can do that.
And what does it do? We were talking about confidence on the pre-show.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I see it as having the confidence to stand up, to speak, to perform. And you're not just talking about giving a speech, right? We're talking about the Olympians who are, swimming, doing gymnastics. They're performing at what they do best, and they're being judged. I think that a lot of people um, lack the confidence, or they're afraid, so the confidence goes down. Even I was at a trade show this last week, and I saw there was a lot of booths around me, and there's some people who are very timid, and they would sit in their chair waiting for people to come up. And I went to a supermarket. I bought a bunch of granola bars. I'm like, hey, would you like a granola bar? And what's your name? Get over here. And I'm just very, very confident that way. And you can tell that my booth had more people while theirs didn't. And for me, they had anxiety just saying hello to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and probably if you were to speak to them for their individual reasons, those three factors were at play. Um, a friend of mine who works for a software security company, the type that helps protect major corporations, digital infrastructure and so forth, was asked to go to London to speak to a bunch of representatives from other companies because they were rolling out this new product. Uh, so he's not used to speaking,
Yeah.
but he was the person to do it because he was central to the development of this product of theirs. So I think that's quite a bit different than you maybe, where you are in so many different situations that I think you've learned to think on your feet. So, there's that wonderful quote from, I forget the boxer that said it, but, he said that, all the planning in the world goes out the window as soon as you get punched in the face.
Mike Tyson.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Tyson. That's right. So, you, I think, have been in so many different situations. You can handle whatever that punch is. You have the confidence that you know that you can handle whatever punch is going to come your way, right? Yeah. Pretty much, right? So, me too, I'd like to think. Most people, I don't know that they ever get to that point that they have that sort of organic confidence built up with public speaking.
Got it. So what I'm hearing is, if somebody has performance anxiety, one, let's detach from the situation. Let's detach from I guess like the judgment, right? That's some of the biggest fears, the judgment. What are people going to say? Am I going to look stupid? Is that correct?
Yeah, just a little different. It's detach yourself from those nervous thoughts about it.
Okay.
Right. And don't even worry why they exist. I mean, that's irrelevant. It's just to do something about it in the moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then what would be another step, for example, as someone's listening to this, where we would detach some of that mindfulness? What would be step two in the process of being able to get this performance anxiety out and go, or not out, level it down to be able to accomplish what I need to accomplish?
You're learning already. You go. That's right. And we talk about better and more so that you can speak with more confidence, not that you can speak with confidence like it's a binary situation, that you can speak with more confidence or less nervousness, right? Let me take it one step back. That detachment is actually step 4 of what I call the read method, right? Which is the first, it starts with remember, right? And the reason it's number 1 is that you need, it often helps to remember why you're doing something, why you're speaking to people. I even tell folks, write it down, right? I love my daughter, right? Or I need a raise. The mortgage is too high. Whatever, write it down, right? And the more that reason is deep and organic to you, it's going to give you the courage and commitment to speak when you want to flee, right? I think it was during the pre-talk that we talked about, fight, flight, or flee. Well, one of the things you want to do is flee, get out of there, right? So remembering why you're speaking is very helpful in, giving you the encouragement and commitment to do so, right? Then it's the engage. It's the E of this read method is engage. As much as you can, as nervous as you are, accept it, which is the A part, and just engage in what you're doing. Now, often you have to keep bringing your concentration back to that, right? That's part of the Zen training, and that's part of where this mindfulness comes from. When we would meditate, your mind would wander, your mind would drift. So we would constantly have to bring our attention back to what we're doing. That goes away, and I bet you experience this, and probably all of the listeners to your podcast experience it in one way or another. Flow, psychological flow. That's just when you get immersed in what you're doing, and it's just, you're just, your time stands stills, and it's just amazing. So then you don't have to worry about engagement. But until you can get to that point of flow, it's very common. You have to bring your attention back to what you're doing, right? And with stage fright, with speech fright, it's those nervous thoughts that are pulling your attention away from it. Well, or, other times it could be, what's that guy doing? He's chewing with his mouth open, or, it could be all sorts of other distractions. You just need to bring your attention back to what so that's engagement, right? So our engagement, accept, the easiest way to bring your attention back is just to accept those nervous thoughts. The
Mm.
way it's sometimes put is, imagine there's a smelly guy behind you, right? So you're not going to move him, right? He's just going to be there. He may be burping, belching, or just it's just going to draw your attention away from your speech if you're trying to do something, worrying about him, thinking about him. Don't get caught up in that. Just bring your attention back to what you're doing, right?
Mm.
And then that's what brings you detachment from. He's still there, but now you're not worrying about him, right? You have greater freedom, more freedom to concentrate on what you want to be doing. You're speaking.
Love it.
Yeah.
And what type of people do you work with? I mean, who is giving you a call and saying, David, I need your help?
Yeah.
Um, is it just the manager who needs to give a speech? Like, who is it that you're working with, and who's going through a lot of this performance anxiety?
Well, the most recent podcast I did before you was marketing for physicians,
Mm,
right? So I've worked with C-suite executives. I've worked with some well-known performers. Many of these folks want to remain discreet
of
about
course,
it,
of course.
and certainly want to respect that. Uh, oh, who gets stage? I don't want to. I don't want to be that guy, right? That's
Yeah,
counterproductive for my business,
for
right?
sure.
So yeah. So, but to students who give, who speak in class, to community leaders,
Mm,
to just a wide range of individuals.
love it. Love it. David, this has been awesome. I think that a lot of people who have stage fright, you said 75% of people, that's the data,
Yeah,
who have this
and
performance anxiety.
yeah, and it's not only 75%. It's the number one fear.
So is that
People,
is that true? Because people
yeah,
say people fear public speaking more than they do death, right? And some
yeah,
people say
yeah.
it's BS. Is it actually true? Is it data?
Yes, there
Uh,
is data. Right. And the quip about that is that means you'd prefer to be the guy in the coffin than the person giving the eulogy.
yeah.
Right. So
I mean, to me, it's like
no.
I said, it's weird for me because it's not who I am,
Yeah.
but I understand it. I think that a lot of people, let me ask you this, that making it the massive fear. We
Mhm.
talked about judgment,
Mhm.
right? We talked about saying something stupid. What's bringing on that fear? What's making it number one? Is it the judgment aspect?
Yes, I think so. I think so. Now, maybe the benefit of mindfulness is you don't have to worry about that too much,
Mm,
right? I mean, I'm not a therapist, but some of this is coming from therapy. Other forms of therapy, you sit and you try to figure that out, and you resolves those issues and so forth, and that can be expensive, takes lots of time. The other thing is it can abandon you in the heat of the moment when you really need it to work. That saying about what's the best camera, the one you have with you,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
What's the best way to get to help with your stage fright, whatever's simple to use when you need it, right? so
yeah.
so you're probably right, but I honestly haven't I don't worry about it that much because the mindful, it's just being human, right?
Yeah.
I think all of us, um in one way or another, we have our weaknesses, our vulnerabilities.
Very true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very true. And I think that all of those come up somehow in that performance anxiety, right? So it
Yeah.
code be, you're not a therapist, neither am I. There could be cases of like, past trauma. There could be cases of,
Oh, yeah.
people growing up with their parents saying, be quiet, sit down, don't speak, don't talk to. One of the biggest things was um, one of my speech coaches always said, Eagle, never tell your daughter to not speak to strangers because that
Oh,
creates a
oh,
sense of stage fright
yeah.
because you're going to go up on stage and speak to a bunch of strangers. It's like, I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
There's something
Right.
internally
Right.
that says that. So I
Sure.
think it's how we grow up. It's the judgment. Obviously, you're the expert in this. Have you seen a case where somebody cannot be um, I don't want to say the word fixed, that you can't help them, where it's been very, very tough, and they just have so much anxiety that they basically say, this is not happening.
I will say this. I can say with confidence that I think I've helped 100% of the people that I've worked with. But with the caveat, it's to make it better,
Yeah.
right? Not, as you said, you're picking up here, not to fix it. Now, was it better enough, right? That they're at 100% optimal in terms of their public speaking? I can't say that. But what I can say is that everyone that I know that I've gotten feedback from it certainly feels that they are better equipped to, and there's good reason to be, right? I mean, there was a Forbes article that it's the $1 million public speaking is the $1 million talent or skill, right? In business. So it helps people achieve their full potential better. So there's lots of good reason to be able to speak better. To what extent you can do that, there's all sorts of factors. Many of them are going to fall into your court to helping them be incredible public speakers, right?
Let's flip this. Tell us a story, kind of like a success story. You don't have to give me a name, obviously.
Yeah.
Somebody who came to you with performance anxiety, they worked with you. What happened? What was the success? What does it look like to better that ability and capability?
Yeah, well, just that person I was talking about who went to London and was just scared to death about doing it. And, and he, even on the plane, I was texting with them. I'm worried. Well, okay, except that you got good reason to worry. Here's a major, project by your company that if it doesn't work out, if you don't find clients for it, it's going to, hurt your bottom line, could hurt your job, so you got every reason. It sounds counterproductive to me saying, you reason to be scared, right? It's acknowledging what's true. So just accept it and try to engage in doing something else on the plane, right? And keep returning your attention back to reading the airplane magazine or watching. Yeah, that's right. Whatever stale old movie is playing, right? So I have my the folks I work with, we create a cue card, right? Which spells out the read. It's just like a little, playing card size that they can put on the lectern with them, that says read on it. And it spells out why, right? To help them remember the why behind what they're doing. And then it has a picture of a strawberry. That's a long... I don't think we have time to get into it, but there's a wonderful Zen story about a monk who's being chased by a tiger, man-eating tiger, comes to a cliff, looks down. There's another. Well, I do have time. I can.
Yeah.
So all right.
Might as well.
Okay. So at the bottom of the cliff is another man-eating tiger. So he's got a man-eating tiger here, man-eating tiger there. He sees a strawberry bush hanging out of the face of the cliff. He jumps down, grabs onto the to the bush, right? And he's hanging there, and the bush starts pulling free from the from the cliff, right? In very Zen fashion, the moral of the story is the strawberry was delicious, right? So that means even in the height of peril, if you can engage that monk, he was certainly scared to death, right? Was going to die, even, right? But the more you can engage with what you're doing, so that strawberry becomes a symbol in my working with clients on just keep engaged in what you want to be doing, right?
That's awesome.
So he did well, right? And he was ecstatic when he got off stage and texted me, "I did it. I was nervous. Of course I was nervous, but I did it. It came off well." Right. So
awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Dave, this has been awesome. I think that if you are listening to this, I mean, you've got performance anxiety, stage fright, speech fright. Check out David's website, speechfrightsolution.com. Incredible resources there. You also get a 10% discount. Just put in the code Tribesmen10. And I do believe, this is my belief, that my confidence in speaking has gotten me into many, many places. And if you don't have that, if you've got that anxiety, you should work on your confidence in speaking publicly, in making sure that you can bring down, leveling down that anxiety. I got this, David. Um, so that you can, one, do those important things like that guy gave the speech in London, or I have three daughters. I know I'm going to speak at their wedding. I'm going to bawl. I'm going to, it's going to be very emotional, but I'm going to be standing up there saying what I want to say from the heart. And there are times in life, my belief is there are times in life when you do get up there and speak, it's an incredible moment. And there's joy, even though if you're nervous, there's joy in getting that done. So I believe you need to do what you need to do. Call David, give him an email, check out his website, and bring that level down so you can make it happen.
Thank you so much, Yigal. I could not have said it better. I appreciate it.
Dave, thanks so much for being on the show. For those of you listening, stay tuned for the next episode of the Tribesmen Podcast. And as we say here on the podcast, we like to bless people who come and say, may you have strength and courage, David, to keep doing what you're doing and changing the lives of the people that you work with. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, Yigal.